In another place, in another time, the world has ended. Enter the painful. But before the world ended, there was Lisa Armstrong. Lisa wakes up in her bedroom. He's taken away everything. The sheets are disgusting, and we don't know why. Locked drawers, a room he always keeps locked. The crosses adorn the halls, and then Lisa beholds him watching TV. She runs out of the house, and for a moment, everything is clear, different, minus the couch by the waterfalls. Forward, we reveal a crimson sky where he's inescapable, monstrous even. Walking on what appears to be glass, with the only thing signifying the path being trash as the TV continues to get louder, we finally get a word in with him. And just like that, Lisa finds herself in a new world. Things are going to get heavy, so let's back up and take a breather before we deal with it. Video Game Donkey, you may know him from being the funny YouTube guy. More importantly though, he made a video called Lisa, which introduced 11 million people to a very unforgettable RPG experience. And I was one of them. We're not here to talk about that game though. We're here to talk about a creative work that's an expression of grief, terror, and more specifically, one woman's experience, I would say. Kinda reminds me of a video some YouTuber made, come to think of it, but it's probably unimportant. Enter Lisa the First. I played this game with some friends after playing Painful, but you guys get the benefit of seeing everything as the story was meant to be told. I'm going to show you what happens, talk about everything as per usual, but more importantly, give you my interpretation of the game. It's not objectively correct. You're welcome and encouraged to make your own conclusions, but my hope with this is that this video can serve as a method for you to interface with Ding-a-Ling's story. Ding-a-Ling being his name. He's the guy who made the games. You're stuck with me for this nightmare, and I'm not leaving you. We return to Lisa, who's just entered a blank room with 6 paths. This is the lobby. Naturally, we choose the rope first. It's the only one that's distinctly different from the others. It's not a door, and it's not a ladder. Anything can be up there. An interesting detail to note is that when we save as well, Lisa doesn't have a name in the actual save menu. She's just a girl. Could this be a technical limitation, or is this a statement about our own identity? Well, the game is called Lisa, but also the game is old, so I leave that one up to you. During the climb, the music is weirdly unnatural. It's calming in a way, but it doesn't really add anything for our brain to process. It's just white noise, literally. At the top, we're granted the middle finger. There's nothing to do up here, no grandiose secret, no jump scare, no commentary, just a pointless climb to being told to shove it. It's hard for me to really go into detail on what I think this is this early. Afterwards, we hop in the door furthest to our left, met with scenery reminiscent of the world we left behind to arrive here. We snatch a pair of old work gloves, chilling by a couch, and clear a path leading to some familiar waterfalls. It's serene, until we see a familiar face floating in the water. Continuing, we go down and interact with the toilet. The only thing we can do is play a throw-up sound effect upon interacting with it. Get used to this sound effect. It's not going to leave the series anytime soon. We interact with him again. This one is staring directly into the sun, so we leave him to it. Outside the bar, another one is twitching, gliding across the grass. He doesn't have anything to do besides tell Lisa she can't escape. There's another one hiding in the trees, and we make our way to him. He gives us a banana and asks us the question, was it worth it? It's hard to know whether it is, since nothing has been done with it. We enter a nearby house where we see him once again asking for us to go get him some rum rather than waste his time. We're stopped on the way to the bar and greeted with an ugly sight inside. He's everywhere, incoherent, and completely absorbed in everything besides us. Whoever he is, he lacks a healthy relationship with alcohol. We find the bartender, and he hands us some rum, since he wants to be doing anything but working. We're granted a red key in exchange, and thus we continue exploring our world. Before our descension through the Red Room, we investigate a house that looks a little familiar. Outside of a statue observing us, it's abandoned. We stop once again to chat with a resident who lets us in on a secret that would have led to the banana, had we not noticed the familiar man hiding in the bushes. The last person we chat with here just gets annoyed and accuses Lisa of finding his struggle funny. Down the red stairs, we do a few rock puzzles and then, adamantly confused, at this point I was unable to make progress. So for now we leave and explore the other rooms. Next, we climb the second ladder, atop a mountain. Atop the mountain, there's only two options. There's this little mountain hole where we can find him incoherently mumbling to himself, or instead in a room of nothing but white. He's kind here, or at the very least kinder than usual. Crossing the statues, we're a little more familiar with this part. Crossing the statues, he's now distorted. Fleshy folds covering his face. He's not able to express any emotion. Descending down another red staircase lets us find a plastic bag in between two crosses. We can come back up to see him watching TV, but it's different this time. It's quiet. The TV noises in the beginning are loud and distorted to the point where I personally feel a little nauseous for hearing this, but things are different. It's calm. It's white noise in a way where it doesn't affect the world around us. We can find him again just enjoying a clean living space. We return to the lobby to decide on our next course. We check out our inventory to find everything we got so far. Work gloves for removing the terrain, rum, the red key, a plastic bag, and a banana. In the room beyond this, there's a character unlike the man who appears everywhere. He's waiting for something, but he's a private guy, so he's not going to share it with us just yet. The third door takes us to another waterfall where we can behold a statue, and the man this time chilling in water. There's a hole in the crotch of the statue, and we're told we need the sword. The fifth door takes us to an ocean or a lake. It's empty aside from the swimmers, and a man on the raft asking for a banana peel. There's a room nearby, with the swimmers flocking to it, but the weeds are too tall for us to do anything. The final room leads us to a red hellscape with a house covered in vomit with deformed versions of the man swimming in filthy water. The first area, while polluted, doesn't have this much filth. This area also holds a lot of cross imagery, which separates it from the others. One of the houses contains versions of the man covered in fleshy folds, similar to the one from the world we entered using the statues. And here they're flocking to a singular cross, but it's impossible to have any conversation with them. They're all like this here, living in filth, but one house happens to hold a basement leading us to something very different. He's here with us, but he's unpredictable, chaotic, and more importantly, this section is pretty infamous for being both unfun and difficult, and why people watch YouTube videos of the game rather than play it. The problem doesn't just stem from the fact he's hard to sneak past. The main problem comes from the control just not feeling the best in this game for a challenge like this. Maybe this is an artistic choice to make it so that the player can feel as if the situation is miserable to run through. But regardless, this, to my knowledge, is one of the earlier games in the dev's career, so I cut him some slack for that here. Now, what are these spiders? The spiders make sense to me as a representation of something gross and invasive in your home that you're disgusted with and other times afraid to see, especially appearing in your safe spaces. There's a lot of interpretations on the spiders, such as them representing probing hands, fear symbolism, predator symbolism, but I think most of them just mesh together to have the same meaning. Through the gauntlet, we're able to find a candle to take us to and from the cave past the spiders at will. At the end, we see a familiar face. Lisa is overcome with emotion and immediately uses the plastic bag on him, ending his life and revealing a singular VHS tape. We revisit the homes to see if anything has changed, but he's still as deformed as ever. The VHS tape we received in there is called Tricky Rick. Watching the tape, we descend a mountain to see the deformed man once again. He's not talking about exploring caves in the traditional sense, and his head shape isn't just a quirky design choice. With the love for friction and sensitivity, Tricky Rick reveals his true form, well, as a penis. He knows Lisa, has a desire for her, and asks her not to run away, similar to someone else we're familiar with. The next segment, I get a little lost. We had all the tools, I just didn't have an understanding on where to go with them. We talked with just about everyone in the first door, but from here, I was stumped for a long time. I went to just about every door once again, looking for anything I could have missed. I even rewatched the VHS tape to see if I had missed something. The only thing of note is that I happened to come across one normal man in the filth area who asked for a napkin. Now, let's actually address the elephant in the room. What just happened? Who is this guy? Why is he everywhere? You may not know him yet, and we won't for a very long time. But you don't have to know him to see the problem here. This is Marty Armstrong, father to Lisa. He's in her veins, and for the time we share with Lisa, he's in our veins as well. We finally return to the original red room we found in the first store. This time, instead of leaving, Lisa moved every rock, opening a path to find Marty sitting on a couch. He offers us something good in return for our banana. Handing it over, he gives us a banana peel. Once again, we're asked whether it was worth it. Past the red basement, we find a rope, this one leading us to the inverse design of Tricky Rick's VHS tape. Rick awaits us at the top, telling us we can't forget him, insults us, and, how like it or not, he'll always be with us in our mind. We leave for now and descend further, this time to a void filled with trash. Flowers permeate the area surrounding a single box, and inside we find a razor. Flower imagery is a major theme of Lisa the franchise and Lisa herself, though the razor imagery won't make sense until we get to know Lisa. Returning to the lobby, Lisa rushes back to Tricky Rick and mutilates him. Despite Lisa's action, Rick still smiles even in death. A bridge opens up leading to him appearing once again, telling Lisa he won't ever leave, and she'll have to just swallow him to get past him. From here though, now having the banana peel, we're able to go further in the other rooms presented in Lisa's lobby. We return to the ocean and hand over the banana peel, leading to the Marty on the raft ascending, leaving only a single napkin. Before leaving, we have one more stop, since now that we have the razor, we can finally see what all of the Martys here have gravitated towards. It's another basement, full of spiders with two paths, one leading to progress and the other leading to an unavoidable ambush. It's notable that the dance floor from the bar makes a reappearance as strewn about randomly throughout the cave, though I believe it's supposed to represent the TV as it's flashing in the intro, as he sits motionless while watching it. This section is also significantly more difficult than the last spider section, as they move much faster, and at first glance, there's no pattern. There is a pattern, it took me a bit to see it. It's completely unpredictable and overwhelming. The movements remind me of the Marty we meet running rampant in the first area, who just scrambles with no rhyme or reason, telling us we can't escape over and over. Approaching the end, many of the spiders are completely immobile, spazzing out, and similar to how we saw some of the patrons at the bar, they're just completely collapsed. At the top, we see an all too familiar red sky and a bottle of pills. With us returning down the ladder, things are chaotic, but it's a short walk to our return. Bringing the napkin to the lone man in filth grants us a freshly cut finger. Whose? I couldn't tell you. Now that we have the pills, though, we immediately go find Tricky Rick and feed him the pills so that he vanishes, being granted an Eastern-looking sword for the statue. Beyond this statue lies the end of the game, so let's break down our adventure. Lisa the First is essentially a fever dream with disturbing connotations. However, as the game continues itself, it reveals that it's much worse than initially realized. I'm sure you can tell that things are far worse than remaining just trapped in the house by this point in the game, given Tricky Rick, how all of these items aren't exactly things I would trust a child with, and how everything just has a very eerie, disgusting vibe. But it's not just about that. There's a lot of research on how people escape to fantasy, especially when a traumatic event occurs for somebody. And Lisa the First does a good job of illustrating how this can't always be to a direct benefit to the individual. I wouldn't really call the lobby or any of the places contained within it places somebody should go after receiving a traumatic event. Especially because there's no real escapism in Lisa's fantasy. Nothing here I would really call an escape from suffering, especially given the entire connotations behind everything. It's important to remember with Lisa that the game itself is built upon the idea trauma being almost inescapable.
She had a bad relationship with her father. And no matter what, it always came up in our relationship. Just somehow it would seep in. Like the sludge of that terrible guy would seep into our relationship. And it just got me thinking, like, man, no matter what I do, no matter what happens, this is something that's going to stick with her. So that's kind of the inspiration of Lisa. So it wasn't like a hateful, like, oh, we broke up, fuck you, I'm going to make a game. No, but it just came from like, man, sometimes there's things in people's life that just happen, and that sucks.
Lisa wasn't made in mind as being some tour de force of just some random person suffering. It's something very personal to the creator and the importance of how this experience affected him. And I think it's a very strong expression of it, especially because the game actually sticks with you, or at least it did for me. I can't attest to anybody else who has played the game, but I personally find it very dark, and I find it very memorable, which I think is not always the easiest thing to do in your RPG Maker horror game. But beside the point, I just kind of wanted to touch upon how everything we see is an expression of the worldview Lisa has. But it's hard to connect the dots at this point solely because we just aren't acting on enough information, and the main thing we can just take away is there's some real messed up abuse involved. Lisa enters the third door, and upon inserting the sword, is warped to what I believe is an opulent palace. There's beautiful wallpaper, repeated imagery of the statues that we've seen throughout the game, along with the familiar waterfall imagery. There's a lot of water imagery in this game. What I find interesting is that despite this place being the final area of the game, there's literally 0 NPCs. No Marty, no Tricky Rick, just statues, massive rooms, and one person roaming. There's one room in particular that really stands out to me, which is a massive hallway filled with statues on each side, with the very end having a golden toilet with a cross above it. I'm not a religious scholar, so I wasn't sure if it was supposed to be offensive to have the cross in the bathroom to help convey maybe Lisa's thoughts on religion and cynicism towards it, given that there are 2 crosses in the house you start in at the beginning of the game, and the only other place where I immediately think of crosses is the filth zone. But I've got these sources here, so let's break this down a little. This one guy posted this bathroom filled with crosses. Another guy got upset, and the guy who posted it explained that there's not a toilet anywhere in the photo, and also explains it as a private space. Anybody can express their ideas in private spaces. I'm not educated enough to contribute to the conversation. I just thought it was interesting that this is the only real-world example that came up with me looking this up. This other guy asked about whether or not it's okay. Everyone in the comments seemed cool with it, but once again, I'm not educated enough on this to really go into detail. I doubt it's there just because it looks nice. I'm certain there's some sort of symbolism here on how Lisa views religion, but I'm open to the idea it's purely decorative. It's just when playing through the game I saw this, and the very first thought I had was about the art piece known as Piss Christ, and I think it's funny I thought of that here rather than when the cross was surrounded by literal filth and mutant abominations. You can probably guess where the art piece gets its name from. Essentially, it's just a plastic crucifix in a... Well, you know what it is. According to Andres Serrano, the guy who made the statue, this is about the commercialization of Christian icons and culture, and I personally think that makes more sense than other interpretations. That's a problem I feel like with probably all icons, and Christianity doesn't seem to be an exception. The point I'm getting at rambling about a golden toilet with a cross above it is that the cross doesn't really seem to have much agency in a building this large. I think it's really easy to miss, and it may reflect Lisa's thoughts on how it doesn't feel that any sort of higher power is present. And if so, it may be present in the most pointless place in her home. Is this true? I don't know, man. I didn't make the game. I'm not sure. I didn't see any other crosses while watching the footage in this area, but I could have just missed another one, and now you listen to this for nothing. The only other room of note here that sticks out to me is this bedroom, completely surrounded by water, with a singular couch with nothing to look at. I'm not Freud, so I'm not really sure what this means. I just noticed that it stands out and kind of reminds me that water is kind of a theme of the game, given this room and one of the doors just basically being a lake. Granted, I think every game that has something to do with mental health involves water to some extent, or at least most of the ones I've played. So take this as just a minor observation. The final room of note contains a giant pulsating mountain of flesh in the form of Marty Armstrong. The room is filled with his hair, his mass, and vomit. The only way to continue the game is to step in and be consumed. Upon joining the bloody body, Lisa is met with an empty path of trash, vomit, and occasionally white flowers. At the end, she finds herself. In the end, she loses concept of her own identity, and she's replaced with Marty. Lisa receives a necklace, something that she cherishes very much. The lobby is now filled with candles, along with her own inventory. This is a vigil, or at least that's how I interpret it. Upon grabbing the final candle, Lisa is brought back to the real world, attempting to escape just as before. As the game ends, it becomes a lot clearer as to why Marty appears everywhere in Lisa's mind, and why, where he goes, Tricky Rick appears with him. The words echoing through Lisa's mind seem to make her believe this, because when you play Lisa the First, there's only one real ending. Lisa's journey comes to an end as even her own imagination has been lost to her, and everything has been replaced by visions of a sick and twisted man trusted in the role as guardian. Everything that happens in Lisa the First is Lisa's own exploration of her mind. It's her attempting to find anywhere that could be considered away from Marty, and unfortunately, there's nothing safe in there for her. Each zone isn't about Lisa, it's about Marty. Everything in the first is about Lisa's idea of Marty, and interpretation is almost endless. The Marty spiders that essentially turned the game into world's hardest game. Realistically, Lisa would see spiders quite a bit, given how filthy the Armstrong home in the beginning is. So this could just be a combination of two things that made Lisa uncomfortable. The forest and bar, Marty is everywhere and everyone to her. He's the only person she can see, and he's the only one she can think of. Lisa doesn't even know her name when you save the game. The room full of water, most likely a feeling of isolation, given how much Marty emphasizes how she can't leave. The room that shifts from being serene and nice to a hell-like nightmare. This one's a little more tricky. This can be seen as times when Marty has been kind to Lisa, or is simply having the appearance of being kind. I don't really have much to work with here. I personally view it as an idea of Lisa seeing a kind past, and how the room loops is because that's the only way she can experience it, just looping the same memories. But I'd also be open to this being as a what could have been sort of thing, with like an actually caring dad. And the idea of Lisa going through the two statues taking her to an endless hell reality, I think that's her current like memories of him and her experiences looping, because that's once again all she can think about. The filth room is kind of self-explanatory when you look at the household at the start of the game and how Marty is seen in the palace. Marty is a filth incarnate almost, and it makes sense that Lisa would see everything as disgusting after falling victim to him. The crosses in the filth zone also, represent a bit on how tainted everything around it is, given how he has the nerve to have a cross up in his home and yet does just about everything to violate, I'd argue, most religious doctrines. The toilet bit I ranted about is also an extension of this, but that part I'm just kind of speculating. The reason he's so deformed in the filth section might be because Lisa herself can't stand the idea of thinking of him, or struggles to see him as much besides a monster. There's one room we didn't talk about, though. What about the giant climb to the middle finger? I see the finger as how Lisa interprets everything she's received, despite how much she's suffered and attempted to explore. Though, I also think the finger is a funny gag. It's not funny in the game, really, but I think that's kind of the intention behind it, or at least that was the idea initially. It'll be easier to think more about the finger after I talk about the later games, if I do. And that's it. Only one more moment remains. In the white void moments before Marty confronts you, and you remain trapped forever. If you go immediately left, there's a singular VHS tape. Playing the tape takes you to the end of the game, albeit a little different. Marty is faded into the background as opposed to the regular crimson sky. And for this final moment, we meet a character who isn't associated with Marty. Lisa's only real parental guardian, assumedly in this scene, her mother, has been completely lost to her. All she can see and remember is him, to the point where she can't even envision her own mother's face. There's nobody else left to find. It's just Marty. You can't save her. He's in her veins. So we're left with one question, and that's who was Lisa? There's not much information on Lisa throughout the whole game, and it's hard to make a judgment on somebody through their own fever dream, but I think the easiest way to explain who was Lisa is that Lisa Armstrong was one victim. One. I'll see you in Olathe. Hey, so you might be wondering, how about that thumbnail? Well, I didn't have any points in the video where I thought it was ideal timing to explain it, so you get a little commentary before I vanish. There's a lot of floral imagery in the Lisa series, especially regarding Lisa herself. The artist Mangakaar, who designed the thumbnail, actually used a spider lily in representation of Lisa. Spider lilies don't appear in the first, but I couldn't tell you a thing about the type of flower that does appear in the first. I'm just not sure which flower that one is supposed to be. I think I'm gonna have a lot of stuff to go through. It's powerful imagery, though, and Mangakaar specifically cited the cyclical nature of life, death, and rebirth when choosing the spider lily for the thumbnail. The drip effect is a nice touch as well. I've already told them that I thought it was a great look, especially with how it fits into the series, and what little we do find out about Lisa in the beginning, but I just wanted to comment on it because I thought it was a really great creative take on the imagery of Lisa, and it presents her in a way that's different while retaining representation that fits her character. Since, once again, floral imagery is a very important thing with the games. As always, you can check them out and their art in the description. Mangakaar has made most of the thumbnails you've seen on this channel.